Okay, we should be recording. Yes, we are. And welcome everybody to the March 10th iteration of the MicroProfile live Hangout, the working group edition. And this meeting is being recorded. If you're on the call, please add your name to the meeting minutes. Can someone please paste a link to the meeting minutes in the group chat? That would be very much appreciated. It is everyone's shared responsibility to take notes, so please do so. Let's see, I don't know if I have anything else. Oh yeah, the chat contents will also be posted to the online recording, so just a heads up on that one. Okay. So a couple of things. I'm hoping we can kick off the voting process. I'm trying really hard to put a stake in the ground here to get the voting process kind of kicked off. So kind of two things to talk about. One is reviewing the verbiage oh, sorry, let me share my screen. That's the other thing I forgot to do. Share Chrome. Okay, there we go. And review the text. Second, review the proposed voting rules, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And I think that's really about it. That, and I'll review just a vote tracking spreadsheet I quickly put together. See what people think. Okay, so let's go to the voting text. I think what I'll do is I'll read the text of each, and then we can, just to make sure everyone's in sync. And then what we can do after I read both is just discuss them, right? To see if we're kind of all in agreement. So the pull model text. MicroProfile creates and evolves specifications without regard to downstream consumer requirements. Example, Jakarta. For example, specification consumers will have to manage items like lifecycle, compatibility requirements, namespace, whether org.eclipse.microprofile is a suitable root package, etc. MicroProfile can continue to evolve a specification regardless of downstream spec consumers, and is up to the downstream consumer to decide if it wants to resync or pull ideas from MicroProfile updates. Additionally, MicroProfile can optionally decide to consume concepts or APIs from downstream projects. Okay, that's the first one. Second, push model text. A specification may be created with the intent of targeting a preferred internal organization, example, Jakarta EE. Once a specification has been deemed stable within MicroProfile, future development of the specification is transferred to an external organization. The lifecycle will then be managed by that external organization and evolution within MicroProfile suspended, although it may be resumed later with the intent of innovation. So those are the two options. Let's start with the pull model text. Is there any comments or conversations to be had around the pull model text?
None for me. I think we've gone through the doc a lot with various comments, and you've correctly, accurately reflected them in the doc.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Thanks for the feedback. I'll move on to the next one. This one was a little bit had some more recent changes, so I want to make sure everyone has a chance to look at it. I try to do my best to resolve all the comments, either by moving contents into the push model text or into the backing ideas sections. Any comments on the push model text?
The only one I've got is the one I just added. Basically, I mean, the may that you've got there, I think, is
Yeah.
reflective of the various RFC, which you didn't refer to, so that was all.
Okay, that's fair. That's in one of your comments somewhere, I think. So I'll look that up. RFC 11 something or other.
211.9.
211.9. All right. RFC 211.9. Sorry, I'm taking a note on that. Link 2.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
So I was concerned with the text at the end here, maybe resumed later with the intent of innovation. Is that intended to imply that no innovation is occurring until that point?
No, I wouldn't think so. So that means, in my opinion, the downstream project can be innovating. But the idea that I think of is if somebody wants to try something very different, either a breaking kind of change or extend in, I don't want to say a controversial way, but in a different kind of manner, then maybe they pull it back into MicroProfile and try out some aspects there, and then it might get pushed back later if it's deemed appropriate to do so.
Right, and I agree that all those things could occur, and many of those things that would be occurring would not be necessarily innovative. They're just different, right? So I think you can resume it later with whatever intent.
Okay. So what you're saying is this text I'm highlighting is not necessary.
Right. It suggests something that's not true, and it's more restrictive than it needs to be.
Okay. Any other comments on that?
So just a quick question before I make a comment. Correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the specs we've got are ASL v2 license.
Correct.
Okay, so I kind of agree with what Bill just said. There's nothing that we or anybody can do to prevent anybody from spinning up the MicroProfile one again, and independently of what's going on in, let's say, Jakarta, if they pushed it and they're off innovating separately. So I think the whole licensing thing prevents us from even placing limitations on the way in which these, let's call them forks, could behave together. So I would say, yeah, remove it.
All right, I shall remove it. It's gone. Any other comments?
Is there anything that we have to address under that comment that starts from David Lloyd? I just noticed that it wasn't resolved.
Well, the only reason I didn't resolve it, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. The only reason I didn't resolve it is I thought there might be a quick conversation around it. It's basically around what do we do about packages, right? And really what kind of, I think, what we're trying to do is say, let's not bring up the package discussion as a part of this vote. Although it is something that would have to get resolved regardless of, not resolved necessarily, I guess, but it'll have to be discussed after the vote. Okay. So I kind of left it there.
Okay, and then, and I'm fine with that. So okay. Yesterday, when you and I looked at this, prepping for our meeting, there was the discussion in there about the LTS model, and we were going back and forth with Emily. Did that get resolved with Emily, or did we decide that it was resolved?
So there was a discussion in a Google group thread that basically we agreed that it's a model that could well, she basically agreed that it could apply potentially, I think, to either the push or the pull model.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's why I resolved it. And it's also kind of still mentioned here.
Yes, and I was just wondering if, I know I didn't talk with Emily, and I didn't see the discussion on the thread, so that
Okay,
just wanted to make sure that she was okay with that.
right.
Okay, good.
Okay. Any additional comments?
Sorry if this has already been covered, but so what happens with push model if with like let me use a concrete example. Let's say we push MicroProfile REST client into Jakarta, and it the packages get renamed. How do we then do we start like essentially reconsuming REST client from Jakarta at that point, or do we keep? I'm just not sure how. Like when it says that evolution will be suspended, I mean, it sounds like we would basically at that point pull in the Jakarta version. Is that kind of the idea?
So we tried to avoid getting into the whole package name discussion, just because it's going to, let's see, it's kind of an orthogonal discussion. If we don't think so, if others don't think that's an orthogonal discussion, then we can, continue to talk about that here. But
so I don't even know, and Andy, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but I don't think it was necessarily directed at the package renaming. I think just in general. So let's say, like, use the example REST client, and that gets promoted, donated, whatever you want to call it, to Jakarta. So that's part of our platform right now, the MicroProfile platform. So now does the MicroProfile platform, does it drop REST client, or does it now reference the project that's in Jakarta? Or maybe
right.
that's not something that we have to decide
yeah,
right now either.
I wouldn't decide that right now. And the only reason I say that is we've kind of put this whole growing pains discussion on the back burner, right, about how to organize specs and stuff, because we've got like 13 homegrown specs more or less. If you include LRA, I think it's 13. And so, the idea is, when you have core specs, they can all kind of integrate and interdepend on each other. Right. So if it moves to Jakarta EE, I think it would still need to kind of be core, potentially, just like CDI and JEX or SR. I think we might want it to maintain there, but it's a discussion to have perhaps after the vote.
Was that more in line with what you were thinking, Andy?
Yeah, and Kevin, you rephrased it perfectly. That was the question, was basically, for, let's say we've already done it for REST client. What would we do in MicroProfile 4.0 this summer? Would we rebase it on Jakarta's REST client, or would we continue using MicroProfiles? Because I imagine Jakarta could also evolve it too, right? So so essentially they're out of sync.
Right.
So that's one of those, I think, discussions. This might fall under the MicroProfile mantras. Let's not pre-optimize things. Let's deal with it when it comes along.
Yep.
That's just my gut, just based on the way we've typically done things.
Cool.
Okay, good question. Any other comments? Okay. So I'm going to go back to the meeting minutes. And what I forgot to add something in. And Ken, you had some voting rules that you were looking at for the architecture group. That's basically a replication of what we're going to do here. It was all nice and bulleted and succinct. I'm wondering if you could paste that in here under the proposed voting rules.
Sure.
Sorry, I forgot to do that. So here's what the process for voting. What I'm trying to get to is, something that documents who's voting and what the vote is, that is easily manageable. And so my thought here is, let's use just a Google group thread, because you have email addresses kind of assigned with people. And just within that thread, right, I'll write up some text. In fact, what I'll probably do is maybe even post some of this in. Paste some of this in, sorry. And people just reply with one word, push, pull, or abstain, and their name, because sometimes it's hard for me to map these funky email addresses to, you know, a committer name. Reply only to the top level message, so, you know, not nesting. That's a nice to have. Any other reply will be deleted.
Yeah, so that the one that I highlighted there in pink on the screen, that's the part, you know, any other reply will be deleted. Well, you know, seeing other people doing, you know, +1s or whatever, that could just remind someone, oh yeah, I have to vote. And so they reply to that thread. So,
well, that's where it comes back to this, right?
yeah,
So,
I know, but
yeah.
but still, I mean, to require someone to go back and look to find the top level message in order to reply to, that's just kind of a pain in the butt.
Well, it's a pain in the butt, but I'm trying to keep it manageable, because
it's still manageable. I mean,
well, that's where I don't want +1s. I want
No, I don't.
push, pull,
Right,
and
right.
abstain. Okay.
Right. I use +1 as an example of voting. So
Okay.
however you see the vote, you know, you might see other people vote, and that's just a nice reminder. Oh yes, I have to vote, or I want to vote. And to have to go back and find the top level message to reply to just seems like extra busy work.
Yeah. If it has push, pull, or abstained and a name, then it's doable. What I'm afraid of, because we've tried this before, and we've always, not with voting necessarily, it's like, this thread is only for this, and then they just veer off into all these discussions as people ask for clarifications. So what I want to do is have a separate thread. I think I have it in here, or I should have had it in here. Yeah, a separate thread that is for discussion, right? And in this thread, it is only going to be the voting, the actual voting. So if this turns out to be somebody asking for clarifications, doing stuff, what I'll probably do, because the way I do this is I go through the web UI, right? I don't necessarily use email. And so what I'm trying to do is clear up the clutter in the web UI. So if it's something that isn't a vote, I'll reply with, you know, please go see the rule. Here's the link. Use the voting thread. Then once I do that, that'll be an email if they use the email approach, and then I'll delete my reply and I'll delete their comment. So it's still captured in email.
Yeah, so it'll look nice for you, but everybody else will still have it in their mailbox, and you're not going to be deleting those. I think it's really generally bad form to be deleting messages.
So the question then becomes, how do we not turn that thread into, well, we could also do a survey monkey. That's another approach. If we use a Google group, then I'm trying to just keep it manageable so it's clear to somebody looking at the Google group what the votes are.
And here he comes.
Yeah, sorry, my home Wi-Fi went down, so I'm now tethered to my phone until it reboots. My cable modem just randomly shuts off, so sorry about that. So am I still sharing? Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
I'm not.
Nope, we just see your shiny face.
All right. Well, that's a step down. Let's fix that.
So we decided while you were gone that we're going to allow you to ignore any other reply, but not delete them.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, but I'm going to heavily reply with a firm response. Do not converse on this thread.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I hear you. All right. Okay, let's see here. All right, so the voting process will start at the end of this meeting, and we'll get to the actual mechanics here above, and the voting ends basically at the start of the next call, right, next week.
Are you going to have the results ready for the next meeting?
Yeah. I'm going to be, okay, so the reason I say yes is throughout the week, I'm going to be going, tracking the votes and updating the spreadsheet. So live, everyone will get it, you know, at any point in time, people will be, sorry, I'm going to make this smaller. I thought it would make it easier. Let me do 90%. So what I was going to do is go through this spreadsheet and keep this up to date throughout the week. So
you have the list of all the possible voters there. Do
yep.
you need to do something to make sure that other random people don't vote, or do you not care if they vote?
Any other random votes will fall under the community non-binding vote over here.
So you're going to track those as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do need to make sure that list is accurate.
Yeah, for some reason, Mark is not on this list.
Well, if it's not, I know I'm not on the list, but maybe others aren't on it as well. That's kind of the worrying thing. I don't know how it was created.
Yeah, what are the criteria for being on the list?
Oh, it should be the who's who.
It is.
That should be up to date.
Well, it should be. You're right. Yes.
Are you on the who's who list?
Yes.
Okay, I missed you, Mark. I'll double check, but for now, I'll add you in.
John, I thought you told me you didn't want Mark to vote.
Shh. Shh. I was going to charge him. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I'll go back and I'll double check the list. I did go through that who's who list, by the way, and I was moving them all. So what you'll see here is we even have, for instance, I think, is it Steve that retired?
Yes.
So I put him in there anyway, just because it's who's currently in the who's who list.
Yep.
So so I put the entire who's who list here, and some folks like Heiko Braun said he's not going to vote, right? But he's still a committer. So I left it here, just because it's who's in the who's who list. So yeah, and by the way, if someone else wants to validate this list as well, I'll go through it a second time. Maybe I missed another one. Of all the people I missed.
Well, I think there should be 58 people. Just doing a quick look.
So if we start with 10 and we end on 60, that's 50. So I will have to go back and look. I'm obviously missing some folks. I'll do that right.
Yeah, because it's definitely more than 50.
Yeah, I'll do that right after the call. Add some folks in. So to answer your,
Yeah, well, if you look back on the stuff that Ken posted, when I put together those that voting stuff, there were 56 committers. So
right.
We may have even grown after that. So
yeah, well, I think
58.
we've had Laird, for instance, and yeah, I think there's one other as well.
Okay. Okay.
So I will go
Yeah.
through and double check this list.
I just did it back of the envelope. It's basically 3 columns, 18 deep, 18 times 3 plus, and there's a 2-column row, and then plus you and Kevin. That kind of 50.
And
Well,
we're
We're already
listed
in the, yeah, we're already in the
Oh,
who's
okay.
who list.
In which case, 56.
Okay. All right. I'll go back. Thanks for doing the math. Yeah, I put this together pretty quickly, so I'll go back and double check. Thanks everyone for bringing that up. Okay, so sorry. Let's go back to the other vote here. This is the architecture meeting minutes, or not meetings, the proposed voting, which is really based on the discussion that we had for this vote, actually, and Kevin just kind of copied it over. So what it basically means is we need a quorum, which is a simple majority. Supermajority of the voting committers need to be in favor to pass the vote for one or the other. If the supermajority is not achieved, then conduct a second vote with simple majority wins. In other words, we have to pick a winner. Somehow, we have to win. We have to win. There has to be a result. -1 is not a veto, because the reason we stuck that in is because if you're a MicroProfile committer, you can vote on other committers, and -1 is a veto. So basically, there is no. It's either yes, no. Sorry, it's either push. In fact, we could remove this one, Ken, because it doesn't apply to this. It's either push, pull, or abstain. Definitions. So that means we're going to have at least 29 committers to cast a vote. Supermajority is 2/3 of the voting members, and simple majority is at least 50%. And that's kind of the voting mechanism. Is there any comments about this?
Wouldn't that be 50% plus 1?
We haven't. Oh, because we don't have an odd number. Yeah.
That's why it says at least 50%.
But at least means also 50% is
Yeah.
at least 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I suppose. Okay. Yep. You can never get
Yeah.
anything by Bill.
Here,
I just give up.
1 plus 50% there. It's easier that way. Okay. Any other comments about the voting?
I think that you are not saying anywhere what happens if we don't reach 29 committers.
So in other
Well,
words,
isn't
we
it-
don't have a quorum at all.
Yeah, well, isn't it then that the vote's just null and void? We have to try it again.
Yep. I almost put down herd cats. You basically have to go and start reaching out to people. And in fact, to be honest, if we're not seeing enough participation, like 2 or 3 days in, I'll send out reminders. If I have to, I'll begin reaching out to individuals and referencing back to this vote. So I will try. I will try and make sure that we at least have a quorum. Okay. Any other comments? Good question. Okay.
So maybe this is a stupid question, but if we don't reach supermajority in 1 week, then we will conduct another week for 50%, or this will be the same votes?
I think we'd have to come back for a second week. I don't know, because it might change the dynamics. I don't know. I'm open to suggestions on that one.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to come back to another vote because you might have some people who abstain in the first round, but then when it becomes simple majority, they feel like they want to pick one or the other.
Well, doesn't abstain count as a vote anyway? This is more a case of people who don't give anything that we're talking about.
No, it's if we don't get the 2/3.
I thought the question was if we didn't get enough replies.
No, I think it's if we don't get enough for a supermajority and we need a simple majority, do we create a second vote?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Personally, what I would like to see happen is that if we start to notice that we're short on these 29 committers, we all have people that we can ping and say, hey, please go out and vote.
Yeah.
Try and get that
Yeah.
up instead of even worrying about this.
Yep. Okay. I honestly don't think this is going to be a problem. Yes, it's good for us to have a contingency plan, but
Yep.
I think it's not going to be a problem. So I think what I'm going to add here is this would be conducted as a separate vote. Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out, what are you referring to? This would be conducted as a separate vote.
Did I put it in the right place? Simple majority.
Because now up above,
no,
definitions,
that's
it
not
talks
right.
about that if the super majority is not achieved, then a second vote with a simple majority wins.
Yeah, that's me trying to moderate the meeting and track stuff.
Okay.
I
Okay.
goofed. Yeah, let's see here.
Yeah, that bullet there.
There we go.
Yep.
That one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that already covers it, right?
Yeah, that already covers it. Yeah, okay. That already covers it. Thanks
Okay.
for checking.
Nope. I was trying to read quickly and then you wanted to close it down, so I just had to interrupt. So that
No, that's good. No, I wasn't trying to close it down. I was asking. Okay. All right. So, any other comments? Alrighty. So what I'll do is create 2 Google group threads, one with the voting rules that we kind of have outlined here. That is a voting thread, and then a separate thread that will be discussions about the vote. So
okay, I'd recommend something a little different.
Okay.
Because we have already had a separate thread that was just dedicated to the voting, which we've already kind of went over those definitions, why don't we get that documented on our wiki somewhere? And then when you introduce the vote, you can say we're following these rules, which were already approved, and then boom.
So we got to find the post. Is it? It's not this one, is it? Sorry, actually, I don't have it here. But I'll put a check mark there. It's not that one, is it?
No, there was one that I started related to the voting.
Yeah.
process. So
There's the architecture one that Ken had. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so what I'll do is, I'll add a Wikipedia.
I'll find it for you.
Wikipedia. Okay, yeah, find it. I'll add a wiki entry on voting process, and that's a good idea. This should be permanently documented. link off to the Google group where we kind of decided on it. And then the Google group thread can then, that I create will point to the Wikipedia, the Eclipsepedia entry, wiki entry. Okay, good idea. And sorry, I just want to double check something here. I think am I still recording after I dropped? Yeah, I am. Okay, good.
Yeah, I think since I stayed on, then it keeps going.
Awesome. Okay. Are there any other topics? I think that's really all I had for this call. So before the day closes out, I'll have all this other recording up, the wiki entry, the Google group threads. I'll send out a tweet, CC MicroProfile.io on the tweet. Hopefully they can retweet. And, you know, we're on our way. Thanks, Anonymous Hyena. Appreciate that.
Just happens to be me today.
Yeah, and if you could assign that to me, that would be awesome too.
Okay.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments before I close down the call? Alrighty then. Thanks everyone. Let's if we don't see enough voting going on throughout the week, let's all kind of collectively go and kind of prod people along. But I'll definitely make an effort to do that myself. Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks everyone. Same bat channel, same bat time, same bat channel in 1 week. All right. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yep.